If you could fix one thing about Syracuse football, what would it be? And why did you say tackling? Let's go over it.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day, and we are always free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on this week's Poll Friday, I asked you all the question: if you could fix one thing from Syracuse football last season to this season, what would it be? And why? So that's what we're going to talk about here on today's show. The three choices that I gave you all in no particular order: offensive line play, specifically the run blocking; tackling, self-explanatory; and special teams play, self-explanatory. And the results are in. There were about 250 votes on this week's Poll Friday. 48% of you who voted said that tackling is what they would fix from last season to this season. In second place, it was offensive line play. And in third place, it was special teams play. My thoughts, like I said at the very top of the show, it's tackling. Syracuse football, simply put, was not a good tackling team last season. Too often times, we would see a 5-yard play turn into a 20-yard play, for example, because Syracuse could not make that initial tackle on the play. And in some cases, they'd miss multiple tackles on the same play. One example that I frequently bring up here on this show, and it's not necessarily to pick on this player, it is Haynes King's touchdown in the first quarter. It was a rushing touchdown against Syracuse last year in week 2. Derek McDonald, he's got Haynes King dead to rights behind the line of scrimmage. It's going to be about a 5-yard loss. He doesn't make the tackle. Nobody else makes the tackle either. And Haynes King runs in for about a 20-yard touchdown, which tied the game in that one. According to Pro Football Focus last season, Syracuse football received a team tackling grade. Keep in mind that Pro Football Focus grades on a scale of 0 to 100, 100 being the best, 0 being the absolute worst. The Orange received a tackling grade of 58.8. For context, that was third worst in the ACC and outside the top 100, I believe, overall in the nation. If Syracuse tackles like they did last year against Tennessee in week 1, which is just about 2 weeks away now, they are not going to win. In fact, you can add Syracuse to the list of teams over the past couple of seasons from the ACC that have been blown out if they do not tackle. I believe in the season opener last year against Ohio, the Orange missed 19 tackles in that one, if memory serves correctly. Yeah, if they miss 19 tackles against Tennessee or really against a lot of these opponents on the schedule, they're not going to win. So tackling is the number one thing that I would fix from last season to this season, at least make it middle of the pack of the ACC. Last year, they were bottom 3. This year, I would sign for 9th or 10th in tackling right now. Comment your thoughts in the comments section below. What's one thing you would fix from Syracuse football last season to this season? Obviously, Syracuse last year was really good, but they were not perfect, and we're hoping they can at least replicate the results they had last season. One way to do that, fix the tackling. Now, coming up, why Syracuse has to fix special teams much more so than their offensive line play. Stick with me here on Locked On Syracuse. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions, so whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before Week 1 even kicks off, This is your moment. I talked about on yesterday's show that the Washington Commanders have the 5th best odds to come out of the NFC this year. I think they're being a little bit disrespected. So if I were to wager, I would say the Washington Commanders to come out of the NFC over on FanDuel. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them, but if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Ready. Rougiette Ready is the next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougiette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougiette might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Head to Rougiette.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rougiette website for full safety information. This is Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and on this week's Poll Friday, I asked you all the question: if you could fix one thing about Syracuse football from last year to this year, what would it be and why? And for the most part, you all agree with me that tackling is something you definitely want to see improve from last year to this year. We went over earlier that they were the 3rd worst team in tackling in the ACC last season. And of course, you want to try to replicate 9-3, 10-3 a year ago, right? Including the bowl. They're going to have to be a better tackling team. And hopefully they are. Here's where I start to differ, though. I think Syracuse needs to fix its special teams from last year more so than the offensive line, and more specifically, the run blocking part of the offensive line. We will get to the pass protection in just a second here. But first, why it's special teams over offensive line. We went over this in the special teams preview podcast. Syracuse football had the lowest rated special teams play in the ACC last season. They were dead last. They were not particularly good in any statistical category on special teams, whether it was return game, kicking. I guess the punter Jack Stonehouse is really good, but aside from that, they were not good on special teams last season. And they're underdogs in a lot of these games that are coming up on this year's schedule. I mean, week 1 is against Tennessee. They're a 14.5-point underdog right now over on FanDuel. One way to pull off an upset is to make a couple of big plays. You can do that on special teams. A block kick, a block punt. It also works in reverse, where if Syracuse starts making mistakes on special teams, they could be in serious trouble. If Tennessee is starting to block punts, block kicks, and getting big returns on the Orange, it's not going to be pretty for Syracuse in week 1 or really for this season in general. So special teams, in my opinion, hopefully with the new coordinator in Ricky Brumfield, this unit will be a lot better than it was last season. As far as the offensive line, I didn't actually think it was that bad last year. Run blocking, sure. You would always want that to improve. Syracuse football in general did not run for a high yards per carry. That's also in part because Kyle McCord, not much of a scrambler, and sack yards count against a team's rushing total. It's a weird quirk in college football that they definitely need to fix. But regardless, it's not like their running backs last year ran for a significant amount of yards per carry, and they had an NFL running back last year in LaQuint Allen. So the offensive line in general with the run blocking wasn't great. But again, comparing it to the special teams definitely takes priority over the offensive line run blocking. Now, as far as the pass protection, I feel like not enough people talk about how important the quarterback is when it comes to pass protection. Remember what a quarterback has to do, aside from throwing the football and throwing it accurately, they also have to get rid of the ball on time and make decisions quickly. They also sometimes have to also call out the correct protection for the offensive line and constantly be in communication with them. One thing that drives me crazy is how people will talk about the Chicago Bears and their offensive line play with Caleb Williams, specifically last season, and how every time Caleb Williams was sacked, everyone would just blame the offensive line. It's the offensive line's fault that the quarterback is sacked. When in reality, if you actually watch more closely, you would see that Caleb Williams is someone that just holds onto the ball for way too long. And as great as some offensive linemen can be, they can usually only hold up for a couple of seconds before the pass rush starts to get home. Now, relating it back to Syracuse, Kyle McCord last year did a tremendous job of making decisions quickly. He knew where to go with the football. He knew when to step up in the pocket. He knew when to slide in the pocket. And occasionally, he knew when to scramble as well. And as a result, Syracuse, for the most part, they were pretty good in pass protection last year, thanks in part because of their quarterback play. So that's why I think special teams is significantly more important to fix than offensive line play. But maybe you agree, maybe you disagree with me. So feel free to comment in the comments section below. My order in things that I would like to see fixed from last year to this year: number 1, tackling; number 2, special teams play; and then number 3, a distant third, in my opinion, is the offensive line play, more specific in run blocking. As far as what is coming up on Locked On Syracuse here in the near future, I don't anticipate there being a podcast this weekend. Having said that, if there is big breaking news, more specifically with that quarterback situation, if and when Fran Brown names a starter, hopefully we'll be able to deliver that content right away here on Locked On Syracuse. Another plan that I have for a future podcast is checking in on the true freshman for Syracuse who could see significant playing time in year 1. So that's what's coming up on Locked On Syracuse here in the near future. So that just about does it for this week's Poll Friday here on Locked On Syracuse. But hey, still plenty of more content here on the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. So for your second listen, you could check out the Locked On Portal Show with football recruiting expert Brian Smith. You could check out Locked On ACC with hosts Alex Dano and Kenton Gibbs, giving you a broad perspective of the entire ACC. And hey, if you're looking for something even broader, you're just a general college football junkie, well, guess what? We also have Locked On College Football with our host, Spencer McLaughlin. You can find all those podcasts on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe and tell all your friends about Locked On Syracuse so this channel can grow and reach all Syracuse Orange fans. I will see you all again soon.